reason why I believe in pre-trib, and we're going to talk about that tonight. So in your books, turn to those note pages again. We're just going to be there for a minute if you want to jot down a few notes, and also turn to Revelation chapter 1. Did you know that the book of Revelation comes with two unique treasures that no other book has? Number one thing that it comes with is a promise. We've talked about this before, right? Revelation chapter 1, verse 3 says, "Blessed is the one who reads aloud the words of this prophecy. And blessed are those who hear and keep what is written in it, for the time is near." Blessed are those who read it, listen to it, keep it close to their heart, which is why we're assigning the homework, so that you guys will get the blessing at the end. It's like extra credit. You know what I really love about this verse, though, is that it does not say you have to understand, discern, outline the entire book of the whole book, Revelation. It doesn't even say that you have to understand it. You don't have to get it. You just have to read it. The second thing Revelation has that's unique is its own divine outline. Okay? This is important. This brings me to my final argument about why I believe in the pre-trib. They are not as strong as last week, but it is one I'm just going to throw out to you. Pre-trib is the only view that allows you to read Revelation as it lays out in order. Every other view has you kind of moving chapters around or events in a different place to make it work. And so pre-trib is laid out as the book of Revelation is laid out. And I'm going to show you that tonight. This is where the divine outline comes in. So if you look at chapter 1, verse 19, it's the outline. Okay, so Jesus tells Papa John right at the beginning in Revelation chapter 1, verse 19, he tells John to write the things that you have seen, write the things that are, and those that are going to take place after this, right? That's our outline. So, write the things that, number one, what you have seen, right? That's chapter 1. We talked about this. Where John sees Jesus in his glorified state. Remember with the crazy hair and the crazy outfit and all that stuff, right? He's coming to John in his glorified condition. And he says, "Hey, John, write down what you have seen." That's me. And Jesus, he's trying to describe what he's seen. That's chapter 1. Okay? So write the things that you have seen. Number 2, write the things that are. What's happening right now? Right now, we are in the church age. Okay, we've been in the church age since the resurrection of Jesus Christ when the church was born. We will be in the church age until the rapture of the church. That will close that part of history. Okay, so it's been going on for 2,000 years now. And John, of course, writes the 7 letters to the churches. Write the things that, yes, are to take place after this. After what? The church age, right? Write the things that come next. When that chapter closes, you're going to write what happens after this, okay? And that puts the rapture at the church immediately after the close of the church age, which is exactly what Revelation does, okay? So I'm going to show you all that in real time. So write the things that you have seen, write the things that are, write the things that take place after this, after these things. Tonight, we are going to fill out our timeline. And what this does for us is it puts the book of Revelation in one shot. So you can see all the major events as it's laid out chronologically in Revelation, which also happens to be the exact timeline of pre-trib. Now again, if you don't believe that, if you have a different view, that is fine. The events are still the events, even if it's in a different order, right? So we're going to look at it as Revelation has, as it comes up as a scene. Or if you're going to watch it in a movie, this is the order that it happens from chapter 1 through the end. Okay? And that's pretty much all we're going to do tonight, is fill this timeline out. Okay? What's really cool about this timeline is we are going to go in depth on every single thing that you write down on the timeline. It is going to actually be the outline of the rest of our story. So if we are writing something down and you're like, oh my gosh, yes, I have no idea what that is, or I heard about that before, or oh my gosh, is that really going to happen? We are going to get to every single one of those at some point in our study. Okay, so that's going to be cool. So tonight we're going to put them in order. Okay, so you guys ready? Okay, at your star, it is us. You are here. You could draw a stick figure, put your name. You are here, draw an arrow to yourself. It's the church age. That's what's happening right now. In Revelation, it's chapter 2 and 3. After chapter 3 comes chapter 4. I want you to watch something that happens in your Bible. So look at Revelation chapter 4. Actually go up one verse. Chapter 3. It's the last verse of Laodicea. He says, he who has an ear to hear, let him hear what the Spirit says to the churches. That's still happening. That's real time, right? We're still hearing what the Spirit has to say to the churches. See that blank spot between verse 22 and chapter 4? You could draw your same stick figure and drop you in there. That's us, right? From the cross till the rapture, we're in this blank spot between chapter 3 and chapter 4, waiting. It's the church age. Then look at chapter 4, verse 1. It says, after this, does that sound familiar? Remember the outline? Chapter 1, verse 19. He said, write the things you have seen, write the things that are, and write the things that are to take place after this. It's the same word. Chapter 4, verse 1. After this, after what? After now. The church age. Right? After the church age is wrapped up, verse 1, after this I looked and behold a door standing open in heaven. Heaven's doors are flung open, and the first voice which I heard speaking to me was like a trumpet. Does that sound familiar? Remember our rapture verse, 1 Thessalonians chapter 4, says that at the trumpet we will meet him in the air. Remember that? John, the Revelator, says after he penned that last verse in chapter 3, it says, after this I looked up in his vision, heaven's doors opened, and he heard a voice that sounded like a trumpet that said, come up here. Come on. You ready to go, John? Come up here and I will show you what will take place after this. John says that the voice of Jesus sounded like a trumpet. And Paul said that at the trumpet sound, we're going to meet him in the air, which is exactly what this verse says. Heaven's open. He hears a voice that sounds like a trumpet that says, come on, let's go. And John's whisked up into heaven immediately. Okay? So that is what I think is the rapture. That's next. Chapter 3 comes chapter 4, verse 1. Okay? The rapture of the church. That is next. And chronologically, it's next. Then what happens? Well, here is where we have to give the Bible a little breathing room because, as we know, our Bible is linear, right? I say that all the time. It's linear. You have to read one verse at a time, one chapter at a time, one book at a time. It's a book. It's linear. So you can't have two how do you say it? Things happening at the same time as you're reading. One has to come before the other. So one thing to remember is, as I see it, the 7 years that we are in heaven are the same 7 years that follows the tribulation. They're stacked on top of each other. There's two timelines now. There's a heaven timeline and an earth timeline over the same 7-year period. And I'm going to show you what I mean. Okay? So rapture means that the church is now where? In heaven. Come up here. Right? And we get whisked up to heaven for a 7-year honeymoon. 7 years we are in heaven. Okay? On a honeymoon. What happens there? Well, the reward stand. Remember that? The Bema seat, where we get our rewards for things we've done by faith for the Lord. The cherry on the top. We're already saved. We're already in heaven. It has nothing to do with salvation. But then he rewards us for the things that we did for him while on earth, which, by the way, is what makes earth important. We're going to talk about that in depth later, okay? So you get these rewards at the Bema seat. And remember, the rewards that you get turn to gold and jewels. Remember that? Which is fashioned into a crown. Remember that? Which we all want. And we're going to talk about the 5 crowns you can earn. And those are the same crowns that chapters 4 and 5 say we lay at Jesus' feet. Remember that? You cast your crowns. Do you guys remember reading that in chapter 4 and 5? This beautiful worship service where everyone's laying their crowns down at Jesus' feet. Why would we be doing that? Yeah, because if you think about it, he saved us. He redeemed us. He gave us the faith to do the things he called us to do. He had encouraged us through it, probably drag us through the mud. That's me. Give us more faith, prop us up, help us out. Then we finally finish the task and he's like, yay, here's a crown. And we go, I don't think I really had much to do with that. And we go, here you go. And we cast him back at Jesus' feet. And that's kind of the scene that you're seeing there in heaven. So we get our rewards. We're worshiping at Jesus' feet. We're the bride that's hidden away in the chamber. Remember that? And it says that the Lord will serve us going in and out. Okay, all that happens in the 7 years honeymoon. Meanwhile, back at the ranch, okay, that's kind of how you have to say it because the Bible is linear. So over those 7 years, chapters 4 and 5, we see that we're in heaven. Okay, chapters 4 and 5. Then meanwhile, back on earth is chapter 6. Okay, so while we're doing this glorious honeymoon with the Lord in heaven, over that same time frame of 7 years, back on earth is the same 7 years called the tribulation. Same 7 years, okay? That's chapter 6 through 19. So you can layer chapter 4 and 5 over chapter 6 through 19 like this on 2 different timelines. Does that make sense? Okay, so chapter 6, meanwhile, back on earth is the 7-year tribulation, chapters 6 through 19. Now, during the tribulation, there's a lot of stuff that is going on, okay? The Bible splits the 7-year tribulation into 2 sections, kind of. There's the first 3.5 years, and then there's the last 3.5 years. And I'll show you where that split happens. Okay, same 7 years, but there's the first half and then the second half. At the very start of the tribulation, a dude comes on the scene, a villain. His title is the Antichrist. You guys heard that? Okay, he happens right at the very start of the tribulation, the Antichrist. He is actually going to be our topic for next week. We are going to do the tribulation first when we go through the timeline. Then we're going to jump up to the bride timeline and finish the rest. Okay, so next week, the Antichrist, who is he? What's he going to do? What's he going to be like? Why is he here? All that is next week, so stay tuned. That's happy topic. Cool. Okay, the Antichrist, he starts right at the beginning of the tribulation, okay? Now at the 3.5 year mark, the whole world is a chaotic mess. Horrible things are going on in the first 3.5 years of the tribulation. Over a third of the population will die, as well as the mountains, fish, animals. It's horrible. A mix of natural disaster, plus the disaster of the rapture, plus it's starting to be satanic, okay? All in 3.5 years. It's not going to be a happy 3.5 years, but the last 3.5 years is worse, okay? So it splits right in the middle at this 3.5 year mark. At the 3.5 year mark of the tribulation, it gets very loud and demonic, okay? And lots of stuff happens at that 3.5 year mark of the tribulation, which would be the next popular view of the rapture. That mid-trib. Does that sound familiar? In the middle. This is where the middle happens. At the middle, there's something that's called the abomination of desolation. It's a huge event. What happens? Well, at the beginning of the tribulation, the third temple will be started, built, not really sure. Right now, did you know that the third temple, they have pretty much everything they need for the third temple, and they have such high engineers chomping at the bit for the temple that they said they can have it up and running in 3 months. Yes. So, it's an event that we could see before the rapture, but we definitely do not have to see it. It could happen any time in that 3.5 years of the first half of the tribulation. Nonetheless, the third temple will be up and functioning at the 3.5 year mark. Okay? The abomination of desolation is when the Antichrist, possessed by the enemy, goes into the temple and defiles it. Antiochus Epiphanes. Does that name ring a bell? It happened in the 400 years of silence. This guy, in the spirit of Antichrist, did the same thing to the temple, Nehemiah's temple, the same temple that Jesus would be in, same temple, where he slaughtered pigs, slaughtered priests, all inside the temple. Well, there was this one Jewish family that revolted called the Maccabees. Does that ring a bell? Okay, they're the ones who put this guy down, but he is a foreshadow of the Antichrist. It's almost exactly what the word's going to say is going to happen again. Okay, so we kind of got a glimpse of what that might look like. Either way, the world is going to know. I don't know how, I don't know what, but the Antichrist will declare himself as the devil incarnate, and the world will know who he is in a spiritual sense, this guy. It's also when the mark of the beast is going to be implemented. Okay, that's your next little line there, the mark of the beast. Does that sound familiar? Somehow, some way, who knows, okay? there's going to be some sort of mark, some sort of tell, something that if you take the mark of the beast, you are pledging allegiance to Satan and you will know it. Nobody will take it by mistake. Okay? Anything that happens now, technology, vaccines, whatever, it's not the mark of the beast. Okay? It's not. This is a specific thing that's going to happen at the 3.5-year mark. And if you line up for it, you are pledging allegiance to Satan and you know that you are. Okay? I hope that eases some conspiracies out there that maybe you can't take the vaccine because of that. It's not. Okay? The mark of the beast is specific and it happens at a specific time and you know exactly what you are doing. And the word says that if you take it, you have sealed your soul's fate. Okay? It's very loud. It's very obvious. And it happens at that 3.5-year point of the tribulation. The mark of the beast. So all that happens at that halfway mark of the tribulation. So now we're 3.5 years in. The last half of the tribulation is titled the Great Tribulation. Have you guys heard that? Okay, the Great Tribulation is actually half of the tribulation. It's that last half. The reason why it's called that is, one, it is great and awful, okay? But the tribulation's been great and awful the whole time. What makes this different is, and you'll see it in your reading, that hell will actually open and be released on earth. And now you have real demons on earth wreaking havoc. I mean, full spiritual, demonic, the real thing. Not just possessed people, not just crazy people. Hell will be unlocked, opened. Satan will unlock hell and release hell on earth. It will literally, for the first time, be hell on earth. Hell will be empty of its minions and they will live here, and it gets that bad. Okay? That's why it's called the Great Tribulation. So your first 3.5 years, it's terrible. The world dies. People are dead. Then it gets worse. Okay? And that's the Great Tribulation on the second half. So that's how those 7 years go. By the way, the 3.5-year mark, when you come up in your reading, is going to start coming into play chronologically at chapter 11 and 12, and I want to say 13. 11 and 12 for sure. So mark that. That's that 3.5-year mark of the tribulation. Okay, chapter 19 is the end of the tribulation and the end of the honeymoon. Okay, same thing. And that's when the marriage feast of the Lamb takes place. Does that sound familiar? Okay, that's where it says the Lord's going to serve us and we're going to eat calorie-free food and all that we want. And it's going to be perfectly cooked and stuff. It'll be awesome. Okay, and that's where the bride is presented. Here comes the bride. That's when we are presented to the other people in heaven, the tribulation saints, the angels. We are actually going to be announced as a bride at the marriage feast, which, if you follow the Jewish customs, falls exactly in line. So there's the wedding. The bride is hid away for 7 days. At the end of 7 days, they have this huge feast where the bride comes out of the chamber, and it's like the here comes the bride, and they all eat together, and it's this huge thing. So you can read about that in chapter 19, which is amazing. I heard what seemed like a voice of a great multitude. So heaven is like cheering. You know, like a stadium, okay? Tribulation saints, angels, whoever's not the bride, just celebrating, screaming, crying out like the voice of many waters. Hallelujah, for the Lord our God, the Almighty reigns. Let us rejoice and exult and give him glory, for the marriage of the Lamb has come, and the bride has made herself ready. It was granted her to clothe herself in fine linen, pure and white. And the angel said to me, to John, write this, blessed are those who are invited to the marriage supper of the Lamb. So all that happens. That's going to be cool. Okay, so that's the end of the tribulation, the end of the honeymoon. Okay, same kind of in there. Chapter 19. Because also in chapter 19 is the second coming. Okay? That's when Jesus comes all the way down to earth. Remember all the verses between the rapture and the second coming, how they were different? In the rapture, he doesn't come down. He calls us up. Right? In the second coming, he comes all the way down and lands on the Mount of Olives. And it says that they're going to see him from horizon to horizon. How could they see him? One, it could be just completely, fully divine. Two, C-SPAN. Okay, same thing. Either way, everyone's going to know that he showed up. And pretty much, you guys, the entire population of the world is in Jerusalem at this time. All the armies of the world, demonic and human. There aren't very many people left. Most everyone is dead or hiding in Petra at this time. But whoever is alive pretty much is in the Middle East pushing towards Jerusalem. Okay? I'm going to tell you why in a minute. So the second coming, that is where the Lord, in one word, it says, a word out of his mouth, will annihilate the armies of earth. You guys remember that? And we, as the bride, comes with him. The bride in army boots. Now, before you go sign up for Taekwondo classes and think that you have to, fight warfare, you don't. Okay, before we even land on our horse or take horse riding lessons, that's what I would need. Good thing we don't die. Because I'd be like, I am falling off this horse and I'm going to die. Before any of that happens, it's over. With a word, it's over. Before Jesus even lands, they're dead. Okay? But this is the battle of Armageddon. Okay, so that's your next line, Armageddon. That is what the Lord will finish in a word. Who's at Armageddon? Everybody, the whole world, these demonic armies, human armies, they are all in Jerusalem making war against Jerusalem until the sky splits and Jesus comes out of the sky. Then it says all their missiles and all their weapons will swing from the city of Jerusalem to Jesus himself. They're trying to blow him out of the sky. And Jesus will say, hey, and they're dead. Okay, one word. It's not a contest. It's not like, oh my gosh, I hope he wins. Not like that. Okay, he wins. We just know. But that is why the whole world is they're in the Valley of Megiddo, making war against Jerusalem until they see Jesus, and they shoot all their missiles towards him, and he's like, nope. And it's over. Okay, they all die. Armageddon. That's next on the list. That is chapter 19. So the marriage feast of the Lamb is chapter 19. Then it says that we all come with him, the rider on the white horse, and 10,000s of his saints behind him. That's us. Then it's Armageddon, chapter 19. And that's where it says, come for the great supper of God to eat the flesh of kings, and all the vultures come in. It's a tale of two dinners. You're either at the marriage feast of the Lamb or the vulture feast buffet in Armageddon. Okay. Where you're the main course. Eat or be eaten. Okay, that's the commercial. Armageddon. Okay, what comes next? Chapter 20 comes next. Satan is bound up. Okay? It's temporary, but it does happen. Satan goes to jail. He gets a timeout. Okay? He's put in prison. That's important. He's in prison. While Satan is in prison, he gets a 1,000-year sentence. Okay, he's locked away, he's out of sight, and during those 1,000 years ushers in something called the millennium, or the millennial kingdom. Millennium is just 1,000, okay? The 1,000-year reign. Now, this is what's trippy to me about the 1,000-year reign. It's here on this earth. That always tweaks me out. I don't know why. It just does. I'm going to go see if my house is still standing or if Oregon is standing at all. It's this earth, this ravished, wrecked earth. That's where we're going to be, here, for a literal earthbound time of 1,000 years. Okay? What are we going to be doing? A lot. Ruling and reigning with Christ. We also get jobs, responsibilities. It's part of our rewards that we're going to talk about. We're going to be busy doing stuff on earth. That's where you get the verses about forced righteousness, kids playing with vipers, laying down with the lamb. It says that if someone dies at 100, it's like an infant dying. All those verses, that happens at the millennial kingdom. Okay? Which is here. Jesus will walk from the Mount of Olives through the Kidron Valley, through the east gate, which will be blasted open when the mountain splits in half, and he's going to sit in Jerusalem and rule and reign from the literal Jerusalem for 1,000 years, and we're going to rule and reign with him. Then Satan is released. Okay, so Satan was in prison for how long? 1,000 years, and then he's released. This is terrible, you guys. Satan is released. Now, reminder, we are the bride. We are glorified and we are sealed. Okay, we can't mess that up. Even though it's earth again, we are sin immune. Okay? Which is something we don't understand, but we can't mess up. We're glorified. Does that make sense? Okay, because it's important for what I'm going to say. We are sealed, but there are humans in the millennial kingdom that are still humans that have been under the forced righteousness, right? It says when Satan is released, this is still in chapter 20. When Satan is released, he will rise a new rebellion. I don't know how long it'll take him, probably 10 minutes. He's kind of good at his job. So the humans in the millennial kingdom, they have not had a choice to follow Jesus. They've been under this forced righteousness. Well, according to the gospel, which never changes, and Jesus, who never changes, everybody gets a choice. Okay? Everybody does. Even the people in the millennial kingdom. So they will be given a choice. Follow this guy or follow this guy. And sadly, tragically, it says that more than the sand on the shores of people will go with Satan and rebel against the Lord. It's called the final rebellion. Okay? We're going to talk about it. It's horrible. It's tragic. It's going to be gut-wrenching. And it's true. But remember, it's not the bride. It's not tribulation saints. It's not the Jews. We're talking about humans that never had a choice before. Okay? That's that category. They will choose. Do you want to follow Satan? Or do you want to roll with Jesus? And by the droves, we human being ourselves will choose Satan. Okay? In a final rebellion. It's horrible. After that, Satan is defeated. And I mean for good. He doesn't have a cameo appearance. He doesn't come back. Satan is then thrown into the lake of fire forever. He does not exist anymore, which is another thing that we don't get. Satan's been around forever. Since whenever God decided to make angels, whenever that was. He's been around a long time, but he's going to not be around anymore. He's going to be defeated. Okay, that's also chapter 20. Chapter 20 is packed. There's lots in chapter 20. The white throne judgment. This is not a happy day. Okay, this is not a good day. Again, another disclaimer. We are not going to be a part of the white throne judgment, at least not standing in line. We may be around since we're ruling and reigning with Christ, but we are not in line, okay? The white throne judgment is where the dead will be judged who do not belong to the Lord from the very beginning of time all the way through the millennial kingdom. Every soul who rejected Jesus from the garden to the grave at any point on Earth's timeline will be at the white throne judgment. And there's only one verdict there. Guilty. Okay, this is where the books will be opened, and they'll see if you belong to the Lamb by looking in the book, and the books will judge you, and there's only one verdict. It's guilty, and then they will join Satan in the lake of fire as well, and that's their final place. As it says, verse 11, just listen to this. Just listen to the setting, just a setting. I saw a great white throne and him who was seated on it. From his presence, earth and sky fled away, and no place was found for them. He is going to be judge and king, and they know their toast. It's a sobering day. That happens at the end of the millennial kingdom. After their rebellion, Satan is defeated, the white throne, it's all in the same chapter. So I don't know how that, like the timing of all that, but it's all in the same chapter, boom, boom, boom. Like that. Like I don't think the Lord's going to mess around. I think he's going to rip it off like a Band-Aid and get it done. Get it over with. I hope. Hope it doesn't drag out because it's horrible. So that happens. Then the good news. You guys want some good news? Yeah. Okay, the next thing is a new heaven and a new earth. Okay, that's chapter 21. This is what's cool about the Bible, you guys. It says, after the white throne judgment, after earth is purged of every unbeliever, and it's just us and Jesus left, it says he's going to create a new heaven and a new earth. And on this new earth, or between heaven and earth, or something, is something called the New Jerusalem, which is really cool because it's like this cube city that drops out of the sky. And it says that's where we're going to live, in the New Jerusalem. So there's a heaven and an earth and a bride apartment, and it doesn't tell us anything of what they're for. Why is the Lord going to make a new heaven and a new earth, and what are we going to do there?
Why would you need a new heaven?
Oh, that's a really good question. Did you know that heaven, what we think of heaven, the heaven that is right now, we're only going to be there for 7 years, and we're not going back?
It's untainted.
You go, no, it's not. It's not. So heaven, our honeymoon suite, is a 7-year place, and then we move out. We live in the New Jerusalem, and God creates a new heaven and a new earth. All things old are passed away. It's all going to be rolled up like a scroll. Even heaven, the universe, the earth. He said he's going to put it away and make everything new. Now the question is, why does he have to roll up heaven? I mean, it's so glorious and beautiful. But it's not undefiled. Because who has full access to heaven? Satan. Day and night, he's at the throne accusing the brethren. That's also where he rebelled and got kicked out, right? He goes in and out and reports to the Lord about us. We see it with Job. We see it with Joshua the high priest. Remember that? Hebrews tells us that he stands and accuses us. The heaven that we think of is not our eternal home, because everyone says you're going to be in heaven forever. That's true, but not the same one. I know, everyone's like, what? So we're going to talk about what the New Jerusalem looks like, because the Bible actually gives us a lot of info, dimension, like real math and stuff. It's really cool. And then there's a new heaven and a new earth. And the Bible says, the end to forever. That's your last blank. So the question is, then what? Right. He said, I'm going to give you this much of the story, and it's a surprise for my bride after that. He doesn't give us any more. He says, I'm going to make you a killer suite. Nothing like that shack that the honeymoon was in. I'm going to make you this cool New Jerusalem that you're going to live in, make a new heaven and a new earth, and I'm not going to tell you a lick about it. You just got to find out. And it's over. That's it. It says the end. It literally says like the end.
I see hope coming on the horizon. There's no need for hiding, 'cause I belong. Here I am in the presence of the great I am, near to your heart, oh God. I have found my joy. I've searched so long in darkness, I've walked so far, fighting but I'm holding on. When your love draws near, I will